Good morning, everyone. This is Dustin Miller, Director of Experience and Innovation, and we are here live in the Rory Meyers Children's Adventure Garden Incredible Edible Gallery. Give people a chance to log on here. Welcome back. This is our fourth or fifth Facebook Live or Instagram Live Incredible Edible Gallery. My name is Dustin Miller. I'm Director of Experience and Innovation, and we're here in the Rory Meyers Children's Adventure Garden today. We're going to take a look at all those spring plantings that we have. These just went in the ground about 3 weeks ago. We've got some plants that are kind of holding out from winter. So we'll take a look at some of the things we have fruiting, some things we have growing. Feel free to ask questions along the way. We had some technical issues last week, but it looks like all our comments are working perfectly today. So feel free to ask questions as we go. I'm gonna flip the camera around, and our first stop is our cereal garden. So let's go take a look at that. So in this one, you can actually see all the different varieties of grains that are in most of our cereals. So as we go around here, our corn just went in a few weeks ago. Some of these other ones have been in for just a little bit while longer. So our first stop here, we've got some oats. Anyone know what this lovely flowering grain is right here? So this actually is not a grain, but we use it a lot like grains. Nope, quinoa was a good guess. Any other ideas? This is a good option for people who are gluten intolerant. Oh, I wish it was hops. This is actually buckwheat. So it comes in a couple different colors here of blooming flowers. So it's a flowering plant, but we use it just like grain. But again, it's great for people who are allergic to gluten proteins. Next stop on our grain tour, we've got some wheat here. Welcome those of you just joining us. This is Dustin Miller. I'm Director of Experience and Innovation. Today we're doing a guided tour inside the Incredible Edible Learning Gallery here in the Rory Meyers Children's Adventure Garden. And our first stop here is the cereal garden. So this short plant here is rye. No blooms on this one yet. And it's just been in the garden for a few weeks. Now let's see if anyone has any guesses here. This is our only one planted in some plastic containers to make sure it has extra water. Any idea what breakfast cereal ingredient this could be? Trying to keep that moisture level a lot higher than the things around it. What do you think it could be? So we've seen oats, we've seen wheat, we've seen rye, buckwheat. Rice, you got it, Rebecca. Yep, okay, Brad, you got it. So our rice we actually keep in these plastic tubs. It just lets us control that moisture level a little bit better. And our last stop here, barley. And the barley does already have some grain on there. See if I can zoom in here and let y'all take a look at that. So yeah, this is a really sweet little area in the garden. It's our cereal garden. So next stop, we're gonna head over here. We looked at a few of these plants a couple weeks ago, but they're still growing and look pretty amazing. So we also have a surprise on this one. And if you've ever seen fennel growing, it can get pretty large. So take a look at this. So we've got a bronze and a green fennel here growing together. I'm gonna step back and give you a little idea of scale. This is about 6 feet tall. It's gorgeous in your garden. You can definitely eat it, but you can also grow it as a landscape plant. And I'm gonna see if I can find some of our special guests that we have here today. Yeah, here's one. So in addition to being a really tasty plant, it's also a host for swallowtails. So it is filled right now with all these larvae, all different sizes. Hey friends, thanks for being here. Let's see if I can hold this still for you. A little windy today. So we've got hundreds of swallowtails all over. Yeah, it's amazing. And just the fragrance as the wind blows through this and I'm looking for these caterpillars is pretty awesome. So this plant is so big that a lot of them have already kind of tucked themselves back in. Here's another one I can show you on the bronze. But yeah, if you've never considered growing fennel, it is super easy to grow. Here's an idea of scale for you. And it really gives you a nice backdrop in your garden. You can let it grow year round. This one has been growing in since winter, so it looks pretty amazing. All right, we're gonna stop and look at one other thing that we have already looked at while we were here a couple weeks ago, and that's our artichokes, just because they look pretty amazing right now. So a few weeks ago, we were talking about parts of a plant. What part of the artichoke do we eat? Any ideas out there? Based on what you're seeing here, if you've never seen an artichoke growing, this is the part that we eat right here. We peel all these pieces back and eat the middle of it, or the heart. Any ideas of what part of a plant that is? Not the stem, good guess. So here is the stem coming up. Any other ideas? Nope, not the stem or the shoot. Yeah, so it's really the flower bud. So you can see here, we've got a little friend here too. Basically, as they grow, you peel back these pieces and you eat that heart of the bud. And once it goes too long, it's not going to be as tasty. So you can see this one's kind of already forming that bulb there. So that's one of the last few that we looked at. So let's take a look and see what else we've got growing. Everything else I'm going to show you has only been in the ground for about 3 weeks. So we've got some nice greens here. And we'll come around the other side and look at the squash here in a second. So we grow lots of green leaf lettuce, red leaf lettuce. Now this is getting pretty late in the season, so we actually harvest this in the next few weeks. This one only really is just for about a month to 6 weeks in the ground. We put these in 3 weeks ago and they were tiny little plants. So just in 3 weeks time, they are full grown, ready to eat. And actually all these, just like our last crop, are gonna go to the Dallas Zoo. Gives the animals some really great enrichment. We give them the whole plant. They dig through the roots, look for insects. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, you can see one here that's already blooming. And at home, once your greens have started blooming like this, they're really not gonna be super tasty. They get pretty bitter. But again, you can let it go to seed and kind of look at all those parts of a plant and really see what they look like in their full life cycle. So we'll come around this side and show you some of the green leaf lettuce. Now, if you do have a head of leaf lettuce at home, you can regrow your own. All you've got to do is once you eat all the greens off the top, I'm gonna try to get up here so you can see the base of the plant. At home, you're gonna cut the greens from about right here, but you've got that little bit of base of the plant. Put that in a glass of water and it's gonna root out easily and grow new greens right from the top of that. And you can really grow that lettuce for weeks on end. All right, so now another plant that you may not have seen go to bloom before. This one is one we all use, cilantro. So this one is already bolting or going to bloom. And you can see here that it really shoots up quite a bit from the base of the plant. And then here are what the flowers actually look like. It still is pretty fragrant. Again, the taste isn't gonna be as good as when they're smaller, but you can still definitely use the cilantro at this size. But it's cool to let it do this and see what it grows to. There are some varieties available that are slower to bolt, especially once we get heat like this. Your cilantro is gonna go to flower very quickly. So look for the ones that are slow bolting and they should give you a longer growing season. Next stop, we have some squash and beans growing here. So if you have a trellis, your squash are gonna be a lot happier. They're gonna do all the work themselves, grow right up that trellis, and before you know it, they're gonna be loaded with fruit. And I see a few fruit over here on a different kind of squash. So I'll get down here. And again, these just went in the ground 3 weeks ago, but we've already got cucumbers that are full size and ready to eat. And there's lots of great varieties. These ones actually stay really small, so they would be good in a container garden at home. And then of course you've got pumpkins and other kinds of squash that are gonna take a lot of room to grow, and a trellis system, however you wanna build it, will work really well. For beans, you could just use string, but they'll grow on a regular trellis as well. All right, so our next stop, we're gonna come over here to our hydroponics. We visited with those a couple weeks ago, and at that time, things were just starting to grow in, so let's see what's happening now. So here in our first tower, this was the last one we planted. We've got some pea plants just starting to grow out. But if we take a look at pea plants that we planted 2 weeks before that, exact same variety, they are really filling in on this one. And we're already blooming, so it shouldn't be too long before we start getting some fruit. And on these, they also have these little fine tendrils, so a really great adaptation to help them grow. And by next week, I should have some peas starting to grow. And then our last tower here is an interesting one. We planted it in the winter. So down at the base, we've got some winter greens. We have leaf lettuce, red and green around the other side. And here on the front, we have baby bok choy, but it's really gone way too far, and it's also blooming. So I wouldn't recommend eating once it gets this leggy. But again, I wanted to let you see kind of what the whole plant looks like. So here's what the bok choy flowers look like. And you can see that as it grows, those flower blooms, it really spreads out, and that tight little bunch that you're used to seeing in the grocery store just doesn't exist anymore as those stems elongate and stretch out. And then we'll come around the backside here, and you can see some of these other greens that we've got growing. Just a nice mix of winter greens. Again, these greens aren't gonna last too long into the summer. They do better in the towers than they would in your garden, but one green that you can definitely grow year-round here in Texas is Swiss chard. So if you didn't check out our video last week of day 4 hand looking at Swiss chard, go to our YouTube channel, look for the Swiss chard video. That stuff will grow well into the summer and has a really nice sweet flavor year-round. All right, we're gonna take one more stop here and look at an edible flower that you can easily grow in the garden. These will be great in salads. You could even bake with them. And let's see if anyone knows what this one is called. All right, here we go. All right, so this flower is gonna come in a wide variety of colors, but the leaf shape is always pretty much the same. So we've got some orange, some yellow, some red here in the back. You might not be able to see that color difference. And they're planted here all over this little bed. Any ideas what kind of edible flower this might be? Not hibiscus, good guess. Those are edible. Nasturtium, you got it. Shannon, good job. So nasturtium, yeah, definitely. Everything we're growing here in the children's garden, we grow organically. So everything here is edible straight out of the garden. If you're growing at home, just make sure you're watching what you're using on your plants. But nasturtium makes a nice little landscape plant. You can mix it in the garden. There are lots of other edible flowers. You could do marigolds, roses, pansies. Those are all edible too. So lots of cool options there. And we're gonna do one more stop here. Swing by these tomatoes that are growing. This is what an asparagus looks like when it is in full bloom. But we're gonna come back over here, past our garlic chives, and we have a nice new little herb garden, and the lavender is just amazing right now. So we're just gonna come and hang out in this lavender for a few minutes. Again, if you have any more questions, again, my name is Dustin Miller. I'm Director of Experience and Innovation here at the garden. The area that we're in is called Incredible Edible, and we're in the Rory Meyers Children's Adventure Garden this morning. The bees are just starting to show up here this morning. By afternoon, this entire area is completely covered in bees and just smells amazing. So again, thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Dustin Miller. I'm Director of Experience and Innovation. You're here in the Incredible Edible Gallery in the Rory Meyers Children's Adventure Garden. We'll be back next week, 10 a.m. for another Plant Lab Live. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you real soon.